white boy sitting in the dark like Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Nah, I ain't no ghost.
I can be friendly, though. Or I can make your life fucking hell. It's up to you.
For Season 2 is more than just about Tommy building his organization with Diamond. There's a family dynamic and a new love interest. But the Tommy we know is never satisfied. He's ambitious, always looking to push more weight, expand, be bigger, earn more money, and have more power. It's just the nature of his character.
We can't expand beyond this, all right? It's probably the most weight we can handle. We'll see.
This is just who Tommy Egan is. Unfortunately, this ambition does come with a price, and it's often a price which is paid in blood. More territory and more money equals more enemies and more problems, and this season will certainly be different for Tommy. So just before we get into a character breakdown of what we can expect for his character in For Season 2, let's have a look at some quotes from Joseph Sikora. Season 2 is going to go back to the roots of power. We're hitting the streets hard. We're figuring out where things exist in Chicago in real time. I think that the audience is going to have a fun time discovering places. Now, just to add further to this, before the actors and writers strike, he did also tease that For Season 2 will explore a heavy Latino culture, and Tommy seems to have got himself mixed in between in more ways than one in Power Book 4 Force Season 2. We picked up with Tommy's journey after the death of Ghost in Power, but also after Ghost Season 1. We saw him then form an unlikely alliance with someone who the Ghost decided to keep alive behind Tommy's back.
You're definitely running your own hustle now, Tommy. You're running it on point, and you're running it without fucking Ghost.
Liliana found her way to Chicago after Julio gave her money to disappear, where she then hit some Serbs for $300k worth of product. Now, this brought Tommy and Liliana on the same page, even though he originally wanted to kill her in Power and also at the beginning of Force. But we as the audience were beginning to see this wasn't the same career chick we saw in New York. She was tough, resilient, ambitious, and extremely loyal. And this is the one thing Tommy values above anything else, loyalty and honesty. This is why we saw them building a really close bond throughout Season 1. Unfortunately, this was ripped away thanks to Claudia Flynn.
You will make it very far.
I feel sorry for anybody who gets in Tommy's way this season, was my instant reaction when I saw the trailer for the first time. And that's because Tommy will be on a path of vengeance. The synopsis teases that he's going to be on a mission to avenge the death of Liliana, and we see him coming face to face with Claudia Flynn in the trailer with a gun to her neck. So at some point you do have to imagine, Tommy will get to the bottom of who killed Liliana, but I don't think it's going to be as straightforward as just killing Claudia. Diamond tells him in the trailer they can't keep going to war, so I do feel this situation will be a lot more complicated. But someone definitely does have to pay because Tommy's looking for revenge, and he's not going to stop. We all know Tommy has ambitions to become the biggest drug dealer in Chicago. In the trailer we've got Tommy and Diamond standing on a rooftop, with Tommy outlining his future plans to take over the city. But standing in his way are the two biggest connects in Chicago, the Serbians who are led by Merkovich, and then there's the Mexicans led by Miguel Garcia. Although it is mentioned in the official synopsis, he's a sadistic supplier with a direct link to the cartel. Therefore, Miguel's got the connection that Tommy's looking for, just like Walter Flynn answers to bigger bosses in Dublin. So how is Tommy going to play this, because it really is a dangerous game playing in between two of bigger Chicago's drug dealers. In Season 1, we saw him taking a very similar approach by sandwiching himself between the Flynn organization and the CBI. We saw him trying to broker a peace deal which would have made both organizations money, including Tommy. Now, Walter refused in the most disrespectful way. Now, what this did was cause a chain reaction. We then saw a split in the CBI as well as a split in the Flynn organization, which was actually thanks to Walter's own doing. But we can kind of get the sense that Tommy's about to use a very similar strategy as he did in Season 1. When there was internal conflict, he played on it. He kept his mouth shut, eyes and ears open, and just took advantage of certain situations by positioning himself in the right place at the right time. In Season 2, he says let them fight amongst themselves while they build their territory, and while nobody's looking, they can slide right on in. So we're about to see Tommy making some chess moves in regards to territory, money and power. But as I mentioned before, Tommy really is playing a dangerous game because one of the slogans for Season 2 is more power, more problems. Miguel Garcia is a no-nonsense Mexican drug lord, and I will get to a character breakdown later on this week. But as a brief overview, one thing that we've learned from the official trailer, he's brutal and violent. So whatever chess moves Tommy puts in place, he needs to tread very carefully when it comes to Miguel Garcia, because this is a power move. This is to show Tommy what happens when you get on the wrong side of Miguel Garcia. Now, I think one thing we can always associate Tommy Egan with is love. There will always be love in the air wherever Tommy goes. Unfortunately for his past love interest, it hasn't ended well for any of them. Holly, Lakeisha, and Gloria, who was only a short fling, have all ended up 6 feet under. So we all know Maria Garcia is entering dangerous territory. But just before we dive deep on why this presents a different type of danger, these are a few exclusives that were posted by 4 stars. It seems that she wants to forge her own path as a nurse, and she wants nothing to do with Miguel's blood money. But we all know what happens in this game. She will eventually be pulled into the well through Tommy. And this is why this relationship presents a different challenge compared to Tommy's previous love interest. It's because she's the sister of Tommy's connect, Miguel Garcia. Now will that stop Tommy? Definitely not. But will it end in the same way as all his previous love interests? Now here's where I hope Force do take it in a different direction. I really want them to flush this relationship out. We need to find out if she's legit. Will she be a ride or die and hold it down? I think these are the questions we should be asking in regards to Tommy's new love interest. Now, we've already spoken about Tommy's relationship with Claudia Flynn, but what about Walter and also Vic? This was one of the promo images that was released with Tommy face to face with Walter Flynn. Now, the last time they were face to face, they were shooting at each other, which ended up in a stalemate, but also with the loss of Liliana. Now, what brings these two together in season 2? Who knows? But we did see them coming together in season 1 to talk about business. Although I don't suspect this would be about business. Walter Flynn and the Flynn organization work for Dublin, and they're heavily focused on moving pills through the north of Chicago. At this moment in time, he doesn't even have Vic and Claudia on board either, and I highly doubt Tommy wants to get in business with Walter Flynn after all the chaos in season 1. But something seems to have brought Walter Flynn and Tommy together for a meet. Now what that is will be a bit of a guessing game at this moment in time, but one thing we do know is there will always be fireworks between Walter Flynn and Tommy Egan. Law enforcement's influence in season 2 is going to be huge. They were in the background in season 1 where Tommy's images were taken by Agent Vargas and Kayla, but it does seem like they're going to be making more strides in their investigation, led by AUSA Stacey Marks. Now, one of the biggest issues for law enforcement in season 1 was Tommy was a ghost to them. They had no idea who this was, where he came from, and how he managed to cause so much mayhem in the streets of Chicago. But somehow they've been able to put a name to the face, which does make me ask the question in this video around New York. If they now know this is Thomas Patrick Egan, then why isn't New York all over this, considering he's supposed to be dead in New York? So this is one of the questions I have, and something that they definitely need to answer. Just think about a scenario where Blanca Rodriguez finds out Tommy's alive. She would definitely want to get in on the action, and this is one of the way I see a crossover happening in Force Season 2, through law enforcement.
You show up in my city selling a whole lot of drugs.
You gotta use that word allegedly.
We also know Stacey Marks will be on the streets to try and ruffle Tommy's feathers, but Tommy's a lifelong criminal, he knows the game and he knows how to play law enforcement. But this certainly will prove to be a different challenge for Tommy in Season 2, trying to evade law enforcement. I also previously raised a question about whether Tommy could do with a lawyer at some stage in Force, you know, the Joe Proctor or Davis McClain type that have your back or have a price. I think Tommy really does need a good network around him, which he does in terms of business. He's got Diamond, but intertwined will also be law enforcement, so this is something I'm looking forward to seeing, this task force being on Tommy's tail and this cat and mouse game. On his way to LA, Tommy Egan made a quick pit stop to Chicago to his grandma's house, which ended up being a house full of secrets and mysteries. Surprisingly, he found out his grandmother's alive in a nursing home, and even though she does remember him, the memories are short-lived. Finding out he has a half-brother also leads him to finding out he has a nephew in DMAC. JP also wanted to reconnect with Kate, and we saw her turning up to Chicago at the end of Season 1. Now in Season 2, it does seem like Kate has made the move over to Chicago. So intertwined in Tommy's world will be his family, and I put this down to 2 categories. The first is we need to uncover a lot of hidden mysteries and secrets, which I think Kate Egan has the answers to. We really need to see some difficult conversations around why she kept Miriam Egan hidden from Tommy. I've also previously raised a theory about how there could be a connection to the Flynns, particularly Walter. Now whether that turns out to be true, who knows, but there's definitely more mysteries and secrets. Now the second is, Tommy will face a different kind of challenge now that he does have a family of his own in Chicago. In Season 1 he came to Chicago as a man who had nothing more to lose. We saw him in a similar position before under Milan, but finding out he has blood family in JP, DMAC, and now also K in Chicago, from my perspective I think he certainly has a lot more to lose. So I think we're going to see more of a protective Tommy Egan, which I think will be a new and a somewhat familiar challenge. Family can also serve as a weakness which can be exploited and targeted by your enemies, just like we saw in Season 1 when JP was taken by the Flynns. Now what this kidnapping also revealed was that DMAC was a nephew of Tommy's. So that's where I feel we are with Tommy's family going into Season 2. There's 2 categories, mysteries and secrets, and him having to act as a protector and being in a situation where he has one foot in the game, but also a game which he's trying to shield his family from. Unfortunately, we all know what happened with Tariq St. Patrick, so let's see what happens with JP and especially DMAC. We also saw Tommy trying to shield him from the game in Season 1, but he also tried to do the same with Tariq St. Patrick. Now D-Mac is very different to Tariq. They both may be very smart, but D-Mac grew up in the streets. It's all he's ever known. So I do think it's going to be quite a challenge in itself when he does recover. But that's a breakdown of all things Tommy Egan, with what we know about him going into season 2 so far. So drop all your thoughts down below and let me know your predictions for Tommy Egan in full season 2. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.